Narrator, tone, serious 5 years ago, that night. In an attempt to win back my ex-boyfriend who was about to leave the country, I mustered up the courage to go to Michael's apartment. However, those few minutes waiting outside the door were the most agonizing moments of my life.
He doesn't love me, which is why he broke up with me so decisively. Or does he love me so much that he doesn't want to hold me back?
Because I had drunk 2 bottles of Jack Daniels beforehand, my head felt like it was about to explode at that moment. Finally, the door in front of me was pushed open from the inside.
Who are you?
A deep, pleasant voice came from above. I lifted my dazed eyes.
Darling, don't leave me.
Because I was feeling quite dizzy, I couldn't even clearly see the person's face and threw myself at him as soon as I finished speaking. The person's body stiffened noticeably but didn't immediately push me away. Perhaps he was also caught off guard. Until I pushed him onto the sofa.
Miss, wait.
The man's warm hand grabbed mine.
Look closely.
Blame it on my impulsiveness at the time. I didn't wait for him to finish speaking before I lowered my head and blocked his mouth with mine.
I don't care, I love you. I just want to be with you, forever. Promise me, tonight, I'm yours.
The next second, the guy flipped me over, pinning me on the sofa, unable to move.
You said it, don't regret it.
With that, he pressed down on me forcefully. The next morning, I woke up feeling like my whole body was falling apart. My head felt like it was going to explode, and my stomach was terribly uncomfortable.
Sure enough, I shouldn't have gotten drunk.
At this moment, the sound of running water from the bathroom and a phone notification sounded simultaneously. I struggled to sit up with my dizzy head and grabbed my phone to check. It was a message from my ex-boyfriend, Michael.
Anna, I'm already in Manhattan, New York. From now on, let's go our separate ways and not entangle with each other anymore.
What?
Michael was so afraid of me clinging to him that he took an early flight to the United States. Wait, then who was the person I spent the night with? My brain froze for a while before I suddenly realized.
Damn! I slept with the wrong person.
Without waiting for the unfortunate guy in the bathroom to come out, I quickly got dressed and fled the apartment. I didn't want to face him when he came out. However, in my attempt to avoid embarrassment, I inadvertently dug a hole for myself. 2 months later, I found out I was expecting.
Due to health reasons, I had to keep the baby. Tom was born smart and adorable, loved by everyone.
Just when I thought I would raise my son alone, the unfortunate guy from that night showed up at my door. I almost ran out of the kindergarten like a madwoman, trying to catch up with my son.
Tom. Wait.
But even after breaking my shoe heel, I couldn't catch up. In the end, I ran barefoot on the street for more than half an hour, and it was completely dark. I felt like a lost soul, utterly confused and helpless. I even doubted if I would ever see my Tom again. He was my precious baby, whom I carried for 10 months and had never been apart from me for a single day. I loved him more than I loved myself.
How could I lose him? I couldn't. Absolutely not.
Just as I was about to break down, a black luxury car slowly stopped in front of me. Soon, 2 men in black suits got out of the car.
Miss Anna, our boss wants to see you.
Who are you? And who is your boss?
The 2 men in black didn't answer me at all. They grabbed my arms and shoved me into the back of the car. At that moment, I had only one thought in my mind.
Kidnapping! They kidnapped Tom first, and now they were kidnapping me.
But I didn't even have a chance to call for help before they took me to a mysterious villa. The villa was large and beautiful. But I had no interest in admiring it. I had only one thought in my mind, and that was to bring my Tom home.
What do you want? Where did you take my son? Who is your boss?
I screamed hysterically. But the only response was my own echo. At that moment, I finally understood what despair meant. Just as my voice became hoarse and my body trembled, someone suddenly walked in from outside the door. I immediately turned my head to look. A tall, cold figure walked towards me slowly. Wearing a tailored dark gray coat, his steps were dignified and steady, exuding a powerful aura. When I saw his face, I was stunned.
Because that face looked so much like Tom's. So much. Especially those eyes, long-shaped, with pupils as dark as ink. The difference was that this man's face was chiseled, while Tom's was round and innocent. Thinking that he was the one who took my son, my emotions became complicated.
It's you? Where is my son?
I wanted to rush over and find out. But as soon as I got close, two tall men in black stopped me. The man's face remained calm as he waved his hand. Because of the force of my struggle, I was suddenly released and lost my balance, falling forward. Just as I was about to hit the floor, a big hand caught me. Looking up, the man's chiseled face was right in front of me. A refreshing and pleasant scent filled my nose.
Anna?
His deep, pleasant voice sounded strangely familiar. For a moment, I was dazed, and the scenes from that night flashed in my mind. Then the man spoke again.
Are you the child's mother? Not bad, you're prettier than I imagined.
Who are you? Where is Tom? I raised the child alone. He has nothing to do with you. You took him away without reason. You broke the law. I'm going to sue you.
I am William, the child's biological father. If you need, Miss Anna, I can introduce you to the best lawyer.
As he said this, the man remained calm and polite. But it felt like a bomb going off in my ear.
William? Surname Williams.
Could he be Michael's uncle? 5 years ago, did I sleep with my ex-boyfriend's uncle?
Damn it! He knew I was Michael's girlfriend that night, yet he still.
I didn't dare to think further. I raised my hand and pushed him hard.
Let go of me, you jerk!
William immediately let go of me. I took 2 or 3 steps back to keep my distance. There was a fruit knife on the table behind me.
Mr. Williams, give me back my son, or I'll fight you to the end.
Saying this, I immediately took a stance, ready to fight him to the death. Seeing my intense emotions, William slightly raised his eyebrows and looked me up and down, finally stopping at my bare feet. Because my shoe heel had broken, I had thrown my high heels into the roadside trash can. At this moment, my feet were covered in dust and dirt. The little toe on my right foot had a scraped patch of skin, with fresh red flesh exposed. The word miserable couldn't even describe it. Meeting his gaze, I quickly took 2 steps back. But I moved too quickly and accidentally fell onto the sofa behind me.
It seems Miss Anna needs time to calm down. You can stay here for now. I'll have someone prepare what you need, and we can talk later.
After saying this, the man turned and left the villa, his steps steady. I stood there in a daze. For a long time, I still held the fruit knife in my hand. I knew very well that I couldn't fight this man. I had heard Michael mention this uncle before.
Uncle John was only 6 years older than Michael, but he was highly capable. He started a business with others while still in college, and now he was worth millions. Compared to me, a girl with no support in Cloud City, if he wanted to fight for Tom's custody, I had no chance of winning. But getting up without a fight and handing over the child I raised was something I could never do. As a mother, this was my last line of defense.
As I stood there, completely at a loss, a middle-aged woman dressed like a butler approached me.
Miss Anna, please take a bath and change your clothes. Dinner will be ready shortly.
Although her tone was gentle, her gaze was anything but friendly. This made me very uncomfortable. Before I could say anything, the fruit knife in my hand was taken away. I knew I had no choice. If I wanted to see Tom, I had to comply with their demands for now. Sure enough, after I finished bathing, someone had prepared clean clothes and shoes for me. I didn't eat a bite of dinner.
In this situation, how could I eat? I just wanted to see my Tom as soon as possible, to the point where I cried even in my sleep.
The next morning, my eyes were swollen like two peaches. I was woken up by the butler, who reminded me to go downstairs for breakfast.
Miss Anna, please go downstairs for breakfast.
I didn't bother to dress up and went downstairs with a bare face. To my surprise, William was in the dining room, looking down at his watch. From a distance of about 10 meters, looking at his well-dressed back, I couldn't help but shiver. The dark gray suit made him look calm and deep, with a small part of his white shirt cuff showing. His hands were beautiful, with long, slender fingers. Was he waiting for me?
I took a deep breath and walked over, trying to stay calm.
William happened to look up and see me, his gaze lingering on my face for 3 seconds. I felt my ears burning under his gaze. Looking down, I realized I was wearing a nightgown with a low neckline, exposing a large area of my fair skin. Anyone who didn't know better would think I was trying to seduce someone. Damn it. This outfit was clearly prepared by his people.
Where is my son?
I quickly raised my hand to cover my neckline and questioned him.
As long as you cooperate, I will let you see him.
No. It's already past 8 in the morning. I need to take Tom to school now.
I just instructed someone to handle his withdrawal from school.
Hearing this, I became agitated.
What? How dare you withdraw my son from school?
How could this guy bypass me, his mother? No matter how rich he was, he had no right.
Miss Anna, you need to think clearly. I am the child's biological father. With me, he will receive the best education and arrangements. Unlike with you, where he can only attend mediocre schools, live in cheap rental apartments, and even a decent meal is a luxury.
His words made me feel deeply ashamed. He was right. Tom had spent these years moving from place to place with me. It wasn't until last year, when Tom started kindergarten, that we settled in an old apartment building. And now, I was just a small employee at a private company, with an income barely enough to cover our expenses. Taking Tom to an amusement park once a month was the most joy I could bring him. Compared to this man, there was indeed a world of difference. Perhaps even more. He was the sky, and I was just a speck of dust on the ground. If Tom stayed with him, he would indeed have a better life and future than with me, even better than most people. But if that happened, I would lose my only son completely.
Even if you're right, I love him more than anyone else.
And what do you have to offer? Your unfinished business degree, or your current $3,000 a month salary?
His words completely hit a nerve. I was once a top student at a prestigious university. If it weren't for discovering I was pregnant in my sophomore year, I wouldn't have had to drop out. If I had graduated, I wouldn't be earning just $3,000 a month now. For Tom, I lost more than just a degree. I cut ties with my family, endured countless hardships, and even experienced severe complications during childbirth.
The only path before you now is, hand over the child to me, and I promise he will have a better life and future.
Hearing this, I looked at him in disbelief. He wanted me to hand Tom over to him. This was blatant exploitation. I firmly refused.
I won't.
I started to speak, but my nose tingled. A wave of immense grievance surged in my heart, and tears began to fall. Through my blurry vision, I seemed to see the tall and noble figure of the man slowly approaching me. He stood in front of me, but I couldn't see his face clearly.
I will give you enough time to think about it. No need to answer me now.
With that, the man walked past me, and as he brushed by, my heart ached like it was being pricked by needles. If I had a choice, I would rather have never given birth to Tom. That way, I wouldn't have any connection with this man. But there was no chance to regret now.
By the way, the child came to me on his own.
William had been away from the villa for over an hour when I finally saw Tom. It had only been one night, but it felt like a year since I last saw him. The little guy, however, acted as if nothing had happened, bouncing around energetically in front of me.
Mom, did you see Dad? Isn't he super handsome?
Tom, come here.
I was so angry I wanted to spank his little butt. I pulled my son in front of me.
Tell me, how did you manage to find him without telling me?
Mom, listen to me. Mom, I was wrong. Please don't spank me.
As he spoke, I had already pulled down his pants, ready to give him a good lesson. This child had been mischievous since he was little. At a few months old, he could babble and argue with me. At 1 year old, he could walk steadily and beat up the neighbor's older boy. At 3 years old, a thief broke into our house, but instead of stealing anything, he was blinded in one eye by Tom's firecracker. The thief even sued us for intentional injury, demanding compensation of $1 million. I couldn't handle this troublemaker, so I sent Tom to school. I never expected him to find William on his own.
Miss Anna, please stop. This is the young master of the Williams family. If you hurt him, can you bear the responsibility?
I looked up sharply and saw the butler standing in front of me with 2 servants. The butler's face was long, clearly displeased with me disciplining my own son. It was as if I was about to hit her ancestor. I suddenly realized that things were different now. If I wanted to discipline my child, I had to do it away from these outsiders. Otherwise, if someone reported me to William, wouldn't I suffer in silence?
Who said I was going to hit him? I can't love him enough.
With that, I kissed Tom on the cheek. Tom immediately cheered up.
I knew it. Mom wouldn't really be mad at me. I found you such a handsome dad. You must be thrilled, right?
Haha, yes. You did great, son.
But in my heart, I thought, I must give this little rascal a good spanking. Tom immediately grabbed my hand.
Mom, let's go upstairs. I have something exciting to tell you.
All right, let's go upstairs.
As I spoke, my son and I got up and left the seat. The butler and the servants watched us go upstairs with strange looks. Those looks made me very uncomfortable. Once inside the room, I immediately locked the door. Although William had arranged a separate room for me, I always felt like I was being watched. I didn't want to be watched while spending time alone with my son. After locking the door, I turned around and was immediately hugged by Tom.
Mom, I missed you so much.
Missed me? Then why did you go behind my back to find Dad?
Tom looked at me with a wronged expression, his little mouth pouting high.
Isn't it because you always told me my dad was long gone? But when I saw Dad in the magazine, I knew right away that he was my dad.
Hearing this, I felt a pang of sadness. My son had suffered a lot without a father. Kids his age always teased him, calling him a fatherless child. Although he never cried in front of me, I knew deep down he longed for a dad who could protect him. If I stopped him from finding his dad now, I would indeed be selfish. Since things had come to this, I had to accept it.
All right then, tell me, how did you find your dad?
Tom became excited.
I worked really hard to find out where Dad's company was. Then, while you were working overtime on the weekend, I went to find Dad myself. I clung to his leg and called him Dad in front of a lot of people.
The little guy became more and more excited, his expressions as rich as a child actor on TV. As his mom, I found myself listening intently. Maybe deep down, I wasn't really mad at my son for finding his dad. The only thing that annoyed me was that he didn't tell me beforehand. It was my fault for not paying enough attention to my son, making him so independent at an early age. When Tom got tired of talking, I carried him to bed, tucked him in, and coaxed him to sleep. He must not have slept well the night he was away from me. Sure enough, the little guy quickly fell asleep. Looking at his sleeping face, I felt a mix of emotions. He probably didn't know what was happening, right? If he knew his dad was going to take custody of him from me and he would never see me again, would he be sad? Would he regret impulsively finding his dad? That night, William came back quite early. Maybe because the master was home, the servants were very attentive. Especially the butler, who was practically obsequious. Although I disliked such two-faced behavior, seeing Tom eat happily made me less bothered. William was dressed differently from the morning. He wasn't wearing a cold gray suit jacket, just a simple white shirt and dark pants, with 2 buttons undone at the collar, revealing his Adam's apple and sexy collarbone. When he looked at his son, his sharp, cold face softened into a smile. That smile was as gentle as a spring breeze, even his eyes were smiling. I almost thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. Tom was unusually well behaved tonight. Too unusual.
Dad, can you sleep with me tonight?
I was stunned by Tom's words. When I looked up, I saw William looking at me. His deep eyes made my heart race.
Why are you looking at me? If Tom wants to sleep with you, then sleep with him.
With that, I put down my chopsticks and planned to go back to my room. It seemed my son was a lost cause. He had only known this man for a few days and already preferred him over his own mom. Just as I turned to leave the table, a warm hand grabbed my arm. A deep, magnetic voice whispered in my ear.
Are you mad?
I'm not mad, I'm just tired and want to rest.
Mom, can Dad sleep with us tonight? Please.
It turned out the little guy wanted both William and me to sleep with him. Seeing my son's hopeful eyes, I couldn't bear to refuse. The child just wanted both his parents with him. But the thought of sharing a bed with this man. At that moment, William leaned close, his mouth almost touching my ear.
We've slept together before. Are you that afraid of me? Or are you worried you can't control yourself?
I felt like I was electrified. My whole body went soft, my face hot and red. This man, reminding me that I was the one who pounced on him back then? I immediately responded, both embarrassed and annoyed.
Who's losing control? I have no interest in you.
Before I could finish, William interrupted.
Then it's decided. Tonight, the 3 of us will sleep together.
This was directed at Tom.
Great! Dad and Mom are both staying with Tom.
I wanted to say something, but seeing Tom's joyful and excited face, I swallowed my words. I couldn't figure out what this man was planning.
One thing was clear to me. You wanted to fight for custody of Tom.
Now, letting me stay with Tom was probably his way of getting closer to his son before trying to keep the child and discard the mother. If that's the case, I need to be on high alert. Tom and I went back to the room first.
Eliam said he had some work to finish and would come up later.
As usual, Tom and I washed up and got ready for bed.
Unlike before, the little guy seemed to really enjoy the new home's big bathtub and the fragrant bubble bath.
He was having a blast in there. I guessed it was unlikely he would sneak away with me.
Compared to the old, small, and shabby apartment building, this place was like paradise.
It seemed I needed to plan carefully. Just as we finished bathing, we saw William already standing in the room. He had changed into a gray robe, his handsome features tinged with a hint of weariness, yet his outstanding demeanor was unmistakable. Because I had just been playing with Tom in the bathroom, I was almost completely soaked. My light-colored dress clung to my skin, and the mirror on the dressing table reflected my body contours. Any man seeing this scene would probably have wild thoughts, right? William's dark gaze fell on me.
Hose deep, black eyes stared straight at me, like a predator in the wilderness eyeing its prey.
My heart skipped a beat.
You two get into bed first. I'll go change.
I quickly turned and went into the dressing room, leaning against the thin door, my heart racing. The thought of lying in the same bed with my child's father made me even more nervous.
Except for that night 5 years ago, we were practically strangers. Moreover, he wanted to take Tom away.
The more I thought about it, the more uneasy I became.
I dawdled for a while before changing into a purple silk nightgown and coming out of the dressing room.
The room was lit only by a bedside lamp.
Under the soft orange light, William's tall figure lay at the edge of the bed, coaxing Tom to sleep.
The little guy lay on the bed, listening intently to William's deep, cello-like voice, slowly telling a story, pausing occasionally, probably because he wasn't very familiar with it. I was momentarily stunned.
Didn't expect a man who had been through the business world to have such a gentle side. Especially with his handsome face, under the light, he looked even more refined and three-dimensional, like a beautiful medieval oil painting.
His usually slicked-back hair was now down, his eyes deep as the sea.
OM's eyes sparkled like his, bright and shiny.
The scene was truly heartwarming.
Mom, come and stay with Tom.
Hearing Tom's call, I snapped back to reality.
Saw Tom stretching out his chubby little arms, asking for a hug.
I responded and lay down on the other side of the bed. The little guy immediately turned over and hugged my neck.
Hugged him back.
Tom was a bit tired from playing and soon fell asleep in my arms. I was also a bit drowsy and planned to change positions to sleep. But as soon as I opened my eyes, I saw William's robe collar wide open, revealing a glimpse of his tight skin and well-defined chest and abs. It was overflowing with hormones.
Was he trying to tempt?
I got so excited that I almost fell off the bed.
That moment, William's long arm reached over, wrapped around my waist, and with a gentle pull, brought Tom and me into his embrace.
Don't move, or you'll fall.
I was already nervous, and now I didn't dare move at all.
My heart was pounding like a deer.
Razy. Razy.
One bed, 3 people, it was already crowded.
With only a child between us, I could even hear his breathing. Iliam's arm rested on my waist, and through the thin fabric of my nightgown, I could feel the heat from his body, barely restrained.
Like a volcano with 10,000 tons of magma about to erupt.
Effie took one more step.
But as it turned out, I was overthinking.
The whole night, William just held OM and me, without any other actions. I didn't sleep well, always on guard, worried he might take my son away.
The next morning.
As soon as I opened my eyes, I quickly checked if Tom was still there.
Fortunately, the little guy had stayed by my side all night, like a well-behaved puppy, his small body curled up in my arms.
Iliam was already gone.
The spot where he slept last night left only a shallow indentation.
Okaying at the mark he left, my impression of him improved a bit.
Even if he wasn't a gentleman, at least he was a loving father. In the following days, I rarely saw William.
He seemed very busy, leaving early and returning late every day. I knew, no matter how late, he would come back to stay with Tom.
If Tom and I slept early, he would quietly lie beside us. If Tom was still awake, he would talk to him or tell a story.
And I gradually got used to it. Very night, we would leave a spot for him on the other side of the bed.
Sometimes, I would have an illusion.
Wouldn't have to leave my son, Tom would have his dad, and the only change would be that no longer had to return to that old, shabby apartment after work.
Tom's new school was also arranged, an international bilingual kindergarten.
OM seemed to like the new environment and new friends. Very day after school, he would tell me about the interesting things at kindergarten.
Until this weekend.
Female butler suddenly informed me that we would have a guest tonight. And this guest was none other than William's fiancée.
The butler emphasized this part.
Message was clear, reminding me to be aware of my status.
Hearing the word fiancé, I wasn't surprised.
After all, a man as outstanding as William must have already found his ideal partner. Girl who matched him must be equally excellent.
But my heart felt inexplicably lost.
Didn't know if it was for myself or for Tom, as that woman would become his stepmother. Character of the stepmother would directly determine whether OM's future days would be happy or cautious.
William came back early.
Him was a young, beautiful girl. He looked about my age, but her demeanor and poise were much better, clearly a well-educated rich girl.
They looked very well matched together.
Mom, who is she?
I didn't know how to answer, as I didn't know her either.
Me silent, Tom ran over to ask William, but I quickly stopped him.
What happened next left me stunned. Narrator, tone, serious. The butler referred to the girl as Sophia. Sophia had a face that could be described as pure and charming, with a beautiful smile that curved her eyes. However, those pretty eyes were always fixed on William, as if the man in front of her belonged exclusively to her. Occasionally, when she looked at others, it was with the demeanor of a future mistress. Especially when she saw Tom and me, her gaze was like a dagger. She must have already known about my son and me. I consciously pulled Tom away.
Sophia, tone, coquettish. William, thank you for preparing such a lavish meal for me. That crab looks delicious.
Narrator, tone, serious. William didn't respond. His eyes lightly swept over the dishes on the table, and he picked up a pair of chopsticks to place a crab leg in front of his fiancée.
Sophia, tone, flattered. William, you're too good to me. But the crab leg is delicious, though the shell is a bit hard to peel.
Narrator, tone, serious. Sophia exchanged a glance with the butler, then turned to look at me.
Sophia, tone, sweetly, then let her help me peel it.
Narrator, tone, stunned. I was stunned.
Sophia, tone, sweetly. Yes, you.
Narrator, tone, serious. I cursed inwardly, thinking, damn it, with the butler and servants around, it had to be me. Did she take me for a servant? Fortunately, I kept my composure, put down the plate in my hand, and walked over. As I approached the dining table, I happened to meet William's gaze. It was clear that William hadn't expected Sophia to call me over either. His handsome brow furrowed, and his sharp gaze quickly shifted from me to his fiancée beside him.
Sophia, tone, faint smile. Peeling crab legs must be done by hand, not with tools, because metal can ruin the taste of the crab meat.
Narrator, tone, serious. I responded, reaching out to pick up the crab leg. This was a king crab, costing thousands of dollars for just one, something Tom had always wanted to eat. Unfortunately, my income was low, and I had never been able to fulfill my son's wish. Thinking of his pitiful little eyes, I wanted to turn around and give him the crab leg. Honestly, the crab shell was really hard to peel. I had no experience, no protective measures, and within a few attempts, I had cut my fingers. The sharp pain of the cut skin hit me. Narrator, tone, sad. I couldn't help but groan softly. Blood immediately started oozing from my right index finger. I quickly covered my injured finger, instinctively looking up. I saw Sophia sitting there, her mouth moved, though she said nothing. Her face was already showing undisguised disgust. William was staring at my hand, his brow furrowed even more than before.
William, tone, unfriendly. Are you clumsy and stupid?
Narrator, tone, sad. That reproachful tone felt like a stab, hurting me deeply. It was clearly blaming me for not even knowing how to peel a crab leg, just freeloading here. I puffed up my cheeks, and before William could say more, I turned and left the dining room. This feeling of living under someone else's roof was truly unbearable. If it weren't for my son, I wouldn't endure this. Tom saw that I seemed to be upset and immediately ran to comfort me.
Tom, worried mom, what happened to your hand? Does it hurt? Let Tom blow on it. Blowing will make it better. Oh no. Mom's finger is bleeding, it needs to be bandaged.
Narrator, tone, sad. Watching his small figure busying around for me, I couldn't help but feel a lump in my throat, almost shedding tears. In front of my child, I never let myself appear too vulnerable. I quickly held back my tears. Narrator, tone, cheerful. It's okay, Mom doesn't hurt. It's just a small cut, it will stop bleeding soon. Narrator, tone, cheerful. Tom pouted, staring at my finger for a while, then suddenly said,
Tone, serious. When Tom grows up, I won't let anyone bully Mom. If anyone dares to bully Mom, I'll fight back immediately.
Narrator, tone, hopeful. My heart was filled with mixed emotions. I didn't expect my son to know how to protect his mom at such a young age. To stop Tom from worrying, I whispered to him. Narrator, tone, cheerful. Sweetie, do you want to eat instant noodles with Mom? Narrator, tone, cheerful. The little guy immediately got excited.
Tom, cheerful. Yes. Let's do it. Pancakes and fruits.
Narrator, tone, relieved. For dinner, Tom and I had a simple meal of instant noodles upstairs. Since moving here a week ago, this was the only time we had instant noodles. In the past, this would have been a very normal meal for my son and me. I didn't know when the feast downstairs ended. While I was putting my son to bed, scenes from the dining room kept flashing in my mind. William frowning, staring at my hand, calling me clumsy and stupid, him serving food to Sophia, him sitting with her. I could even imagine William holding his fiancée's slender waist, dancing to the music. Soon, they would have a grand wedding, then honeymoon in this villa, and have children. The more I thought about it, the more it hurt. It hurt so much I couldn't breathe. Finally, I fell asleep with these negative emotions. In a daze, I didn't know how long I had slept when I suddenly felt someone lift me from the bed. I groggily opened my eyes, only to see a blurry shadow holding me tightly, leaning down to kiss my lips, with a faint smell of alcohol. The person's lips were cold, but the kiss was hot and forceful, making it impossible to resist. And this kiss felt strangely familiar. It was just like that night 5 years ago.
Don't be afraid, it's me.
I instantly woke up and tried to push away. A sexy male voice sounded in the dark. After saying that, the man lowered his head and pressed towards me again.
Go away! Don't!
Halfway through my shout, I suddenly realized my son was still sleeping and immediately stopped. But this gave William an opportunity.
Don't avoid me. From the first moment I saw you, I knew you were mine.
After saying that, the man grabbed me tightly in front of him. Then he freed one hand to hold the back of my head. The next second, our lips met.
He must be drunk, mistaking me for someone else.
I dared not slack off anymore, placing my hands in front of me and pushing him away with all my might. William probably didn't expect me to have such strength and was thrown to the ground by my push. It seemed he hit something, making a bang sound, followed by a muffled groan. Panicking, I got up and ran out of the room. The next morning, I woke up groggily to see William already dressed in a blue-gray suit, walking steadily down the stairs while adjusting his tie. His handsome face was calm and stern, as if nothing had happened last night. The only noticeable thing was a red swollen spot on his forehead. His neatly combed bangs couldn't hide it. My heart skipped a beat. That must have been from last night when I accidentally pushed him off the bed, and his head hit the corner of the table.
Oh my. Sir, did you have an accident last night? Do you need a private doctor to take a look?
No need.
After saying that, he glanced at me. I quickly stood up from the sofa, instinctively tidying the hair around my ears. I didn't dare look at him, keeping my head down and staring at my bare ankles. I had run out too hastily last night, so I wasn't wearing slippers.
Miss Anna, you're up early. Do you have something to say to me?
For a second, I almost choked on my words. If he hadn't taken advantage of me while drunk last night, would I have run out of the room in the middle of the night? Although it was just once, who could guarantee there wouldn't be a next time? The most infuriating part was that he mistook me for another woman. Thinking of this made me even more upset.
Mr. Williams, I've thought it over. I think you were right before. Tom would indeed be better off with you, but I am his mom, and that is an unchangeable fact. Right?
William stood in front of me, looking at me intently, seemingly waiting for me to continue.
So, I have only one request. After I move out, Tom must spend every weekend with me.
I saw William's brows gradually furrow.
You want to move out?
Yes, I'm moving today.
I wasn't going to give this jerk another chance to offend me. However, William seemed somewhat displeased.
We'll discuss this when I get back.
After saying that, he picked up his briefcase and was about to leave.
No need for that. Just have someone bring Tom to me on Fridays.
After saying that, I didn't care about William's reaction and went upstairs. Back in the room, Tom was still asleep. The little guy was sleeping soundly, face down with his little butt sticking up. I didn't plan to wake him up. If he knew I was moving out today, he might cry his eyes out. Besides, Friday would come soon. In a few days, we would see each other again. Thinking of this, I bent down and kissed Tom's little head, then got up to pack my things. To be precise, I put on my clothes and grabbed my bag.
Mom.
I froze in place. My heart felt like it was bleeding. My poor Tom would have to stay here alone for a few days. In the following days, I focused on work, trying not to think about my son too much. But once I returned to my rented apartment, I couldn't help but miss him, wondering how he was doing, if he was eating well, if he was sleeping well, if he was being bullied at school. I wondered if William was taking good care of him. The more I missed him, the more it hurt. But this would be the norm in the future, and I had to adapt quickly. To keep myself busy, I agreed to accompany my colleague Lily to a blind date after work. The date was at a restaurant near our company. Lily was dressed up, looking sexy and charming, while I was barefaced. The other party turned out to be a balding middle-aged man. The result was even more surprising.
Miss Anna, I've wanted to meet you, the campus belle of K University, for a long time, but never had the chance. Today, I finally got to meet you under the pretense of a blind date with Lily.
What?
I was a bit stunned. Lily, sitting beside me, smiled and said,
Oh, Mr. Smith is sincere. Anna, you should listen to me and give Mr. Smith a chance. Besides, Mr. Smith is a high-quality man.
If he's so high quality, why don't you want him? And from the way he spoke, it seemed he already knew me. After all, the title of Campus Belle of K University was from 5 years ago. Sorry, I think there's a misunderstanding. I don't need to meet any high-quality men. I think I'm fine on my own.
I realized that accompanying the blind date was just a pretense, it was actually a setup for me. I didn't care how long the other party had known me. After saying that, I was about to leave.
Stop pretending. Don't think I don't know. Your child is already 4 or 5 years old. You must have been fooling around with rich kids back then, and what happened? You got dumped, got pregnant, and were expelled from school. Now someone wants you, and you still have the nerve to be picky.
His words pierced my heart. The suppressed grievances in my heart were about to overflow, and tears welled up in my eyes. But my pride wouldn't allow me to cry. For myself. And for Tom. We couldn't let these bastards look down on us. Just as I grabbed a glass of water to splash it on him, a large hand suddenly reached from behind and pulled me into an embrace. Then, I heard a man's voice.
Who do you think you are? How dare you touch my woman?
After saying that, he kicked Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith was kicked to the ground. I was completely stunned.
Mr. Smith, are you okay?
But Mr. Smith scrambled to his feet and instantly changed his expression.
Mr. Williams, I didn't recognize you. I didn't know she was.
At this moment, William was holding my shoulder. I never turned around, but I had already guessed that the person standing behind me was him. That strong sense of security was something I had never experienced before. Even when I was with Michael.
She's my woman.
William declared in front of everyone in the restaurant that I was his woman. What caught me off guard even more was that he didn't even ask me, just held my shoulder and left the restaurant. A black Range Rover was parked outside the cafe.
Get in.
William opened the car door, signaling for me to get in. But I didn't give him the satisfaction.
No need, I have legs.
With that, I turned to leave. I didn't want to get entangled with a man who had a fiancée. However, I hadn't taken 2 steps before William picked me up and put me in the car. I couldn't stand overly domineering men.
What are you doing? I want to get out.
Why are you avoiding me?
I'm not.
I pushed him away.
Mr. Williams, please behave yourself.
Behave? Let me show you what behaving means.
As he said this, he leaned in close, his nose just a few centimeters from my face. The fresh scent of the man enveloped me.
Was he going to kiss me again?
Looking at his thin, cold lips, my heart raced. But then he said,
Do you know what kind of person that old Mr. Smith is? He's a womanizer, having played with countless actresses, models, and internet celebrities. Do you want to be one of his conquests?
William's gaze was fierce and intense, as if trying to bore a hole through my face. And being so close, his breath fell on my face, making it hot and my heart race. I almost suspected he was jealous of that old pervert. Mr. Smith was indeed not a good person, but what right did William have to interfere in my life? Moreover, he had a wealthy fiancée. One fiancée wasn't enough, and he still wanted to mess with me? That wasn't much better than the old pervert.
This is my business. You don't need to worry about it. Besides, Mr. Williams, you and I are not the same kind of people. Apart from raising the child together, I don't want to have anything to do with you.
Before I could finish, his thin lips pressed down on mine. The words I was about to say were swallowed by him. Our lips touched, and our breaths quickened. Thump, thump, I could almost hear my heartbeat. Just as I was getting lost in the kiss, the car suddenly rang with a loud phone ringtone. William finally let me go, giving me a deep look before turning to answer the phone. I didn't know who was calling. But I could clearly see a look of panic flash across William's usually composed face. However, the next second, he regained his usual calm demeanor. I almost thought I had imagined it.
Got it.
William said and hung up the phone. I thought it was just work, and I was about to say goodbye when I saw his face darken.
Our son is missing, and we can't find him anywhere.
You mean Tom is missing?
Yes. You should know where he might have gone, right?
I was at a loss for words. As a mother, should I know where my child is? Was he implying that I had taken the child?
How would I know? Maybe you treated Tom badly and he ran away because he was upset.
William grabbed my wrist, his tone harsh.
Now is not the time to discuss this. Finding the child is the priority.
My heart sank. It seemed Tom was really missing. I no longer had the mood to argue with William. I asked him to take me to the old apartment I rented. It was the only place I could think of. That was our home. Sure enough, the little guy was squatting in the dimly lit hallway, his small figure curled up into a ball. At that moment, my heart felt like it was being clawed by 1,000 hands. I thought my son preferred his dad, that he would quickly adapt to living with him. I thought he wouldn't need me anymore.
Tom.
I shouted, rushing over to hug him. But the little guy didn't react at all, looking wilted like a frostbitten plant. I sensed something was wrong and quickly placed my hand on his forehead. Sure enough, it was burning hot, like a baked sweet potato.
Tom, you have a fever. Mom will take you to the hospital now. Tom, hold on.
I said, picking him up and running downstairs. In my haste, I almost tripped and fell with Tom. Luckily, William caught him in time.
Don't worry, I'll take him to the best hospital and find the best doctor.
With that, he carried Tom downstairs. I quickly followed. On the way, William's face remained stern. Although he didn't say a word, I was already overwhelmed with guilt and self-blame. I held Tom tightly, his small body nestled in my arms, his little head resting against my neck, burning like a little fireball. My heart felt like it was being roasted, tormented. Fortunately, we soon arrived at the hospital. Thanks to William's connections, Tom was quickly admitted to a room. After a series of tests, the doctor said it was just a cold. William, who had been serious all along, finally spoke.
Don't worry too much. The doctor said it's just a cold. Once the fever subsides, he should be fine.
I didn't expect him to comfort me instead of blaming me. At that moment, my heart softened.
Thank you, Tom's dad.
What?
He didn't react immediately. Maybe it was the first time he heard me call him that. But judging by his reaction, he didn't seem to dislike the title Tom's dad.
I said, thank you, Tom's dad. If it weren't for you today, I wouldn't know what to do.
William slightly curled his lips, his tone gentle.
It's nothing. The fact that our son has grown up so well is all thanks to you. So, I should be the one saying thank you.
As we were exchanging polite words, a nurse came in to change Tom's for. Perhaps she had never seen such courteous parents, she gave us a strange look. I quickly looked away. Soon, the nurse finished changing the four and reminded us to check Tom's temperature regularly.
Got it, we'll remember.
After responding, we looked at each other. His deep, dark eyes were fixed on me, as if a fire was burning within them. I blushed under his gaze and quickly looked away.
I'll stay with Tom tonight.
Are you sure you can handle it alone?
What else? I've always taken care of him alone when he's sick.
It's different now. Tom has me, his dad. Tonight, I'll stay with you.
Hearing this, I didn't know how to respond. Since he wanted to stay, I let him. After all, he was Tom's biological father. Time quickly passed into the night. Tom's fever hadn't subsided, his little face red, making my heart ache. William, as he said, never left the room, canceling all his work arrangements for the day. Even important calls were taken outside. I could see he was very worried about our son. Whenever Tom showed any discomfort, he would tense up. He probably had never experienced this before, So he didn't know how to take care of a sick child, looking very much like a new dad. Although I was still worried, I couldn't resist the drowsiness. With no extra bed, I could only nap by the bedside. Before sleeping, I reminded him.
Tom's dad, wake me up in the middle of the night.
Got it. Tom's mom, get some sleep.
I got used to his new title for me and fell asleep without hearing what he said next. Unexpectedly, I slept until morning. I woke up to Tom's tender voice.
Mom, Mom.
I opened my eyes to see Tom sitting on the bed, looking at me. His deep, dark eyes were just like someone's. I quickly woke up, sitting up.
Tom, Mom's here. How did I sleep until now?
Dad said you were too tired and needed more sleep.
Dad?
I looked around the room. There was no sign of William. Tom continued happily.
Dad has work to do. He said someone will bring us breakfast soon. Dad also said, once I'm better, he'll take us home.
Tom was getting more excited, but I was still confused. I vaguely remembered waking up in the middle of the night. William's tall figure was standing by the bed, wiping Tom's hands and feet with a towel. I asked,
Is it time?
Not yet, go back to sleep. I seemed to hear that reply and fell asleep again. So, William had stayed up all night with our son, never intending to wake me. Realizing this, I quickly took Tom's temperature. Sure enough, it had dropped to 38 degrees. Seeing Tom looking energetic, I finally relaxed. Tom hugged my neck, acting spoiled.
Mom, let's never be apart again, okay?
I didn't know how to respond. Wanting a family to stay together forever was impossible. Even if I agreed, William might not. But to make Tom happy, I said,
Once you're out of the hospital, we'll be together.
Tom was so happy he almost jumped off the bed. After observing him for a day, Tom's fever didn't return. In the afternoon, I completed the discharge procedures. Tom and I thought William would come to pick us up, but Sophia showed up instead. Sophia blocked us in the hospital room. Her fierce eyes looked like she wanted to eat me.
Sophia, this is...
I worried about scaring Tom and quickly held him close. Sophia walked up to the bed arrogantly.
Did William really stay with you all night?
I was stunned. How did the wealthy Sophia know my son was hospitalized? I responded politely.
Are you looking for Mr. Williams? I'm sorry, he's not here during the day.
Sophia glared at my son and me.
I'm not looking for him. I'm looking for you. Name your price. And you and your foolish son leave William.
The young lady was straightforward this time, and I didn't know how to respond. But for Tom's sake, I couldn't let her have her way.
Sophia, you seem to have misunderstood something. It's not that we can't leave William, but that he can't leave us. And as a man, taking responsibility for his actions and his own flesh and blood is a commendable quality. Doesn't Sophia appreciate Mr. Williams' sense of responsibility, preferring instead a man who shirks his duties?
Sophia was red with anger at my retort.
You!
I didn't want to engage further and picked up Tom to leave. Unexpectedly, the young lady grabbed my sleeve.
Stop, you shameless woman! Let me tell you, with just one word from me, William will kick you and your son out because his business relies entirely on our family. How dare he keep you two behind my back?
With that, she pushed me hard. I stumbled and fell with my child in my arms. Tom's left knee hit the floor, and he started crying loudly. Seeing Tom crying in my arms, I couldn't care about anything else.
Fine, go tell William now and see what he says. If he wants us to leave, we'll leave immediately.
Unexpectedly, this completely infuriated Sophia.
You wretch! Go to hell!
She raised her hand to hit me. Holding my child, I couldn't dodge in time. Just as the slap was about to land on my face, a large hand suddenly reached out from behind and grabbed Sophia's hand.
Is this the elegant and beautiful Sophia I know? Today, you've really opened my eyes.
I watched as Sophia's beautiful face went from furious to shocked in just a second.
No, it's not. William, let me explain.
No need, I don't want to hear it.
With that, Sophia's hand was flung away. I was so shocked I almost couldn't close my mouth until I heard my son's clear voice.
Daddy!
I turned to see William standing behind me. His tall and straight figure was like a mountain, shielding my son and me. It gave an inexplicable sense of security. But when did he arrive? How long had he been here? Had he been outside the room the whole time? Before I could figure it out, William helped me up, took Tom in his arms, and led us away without looking back. I didn't notice Sophia's expression at that moment, only hearing her screaming and shouting like a madwoman in the room.
William, if you take them away, I'll break off the engagement. William, you'll regret this. William, come back.
I thought, if I were her, I'd probably be furious too. But did William really care so little about his fiancée? Did he really not care about breaking off the engagement? William put Tom and me in the car, sitting in the front seat.
Take us to my place.
Why?
I don't want to cause you trouble. If Sophia really wants to call off the engagement, your business will.
Before I could finish, he interrupted.
That's not your concern. You just need to take care of our son. I'll handle everything else.
Despite his words, I insisted that he take Tom and me back to my rented apartment. After all, the child had just recovered and needed his mom's care. William didn't object. He said he was very busy lately and wanted Tom to stay with me for a few days. Tom even made a deal with him to take us to the amusement park once he was free. I thought that was the end of it. After all, William couldn't really call off his engagement with Sophia. He probably agreed to take us back to ease things with his fiancée. 3 days later, to my surprise, William sent a Rolls-Royce to pick up Tom and me. The driver, whom I had never seen before, claimed to be arranged by Mr. Williams. I hesitated for a moment. But Tom missed his dad so much that he kept begging to go back. Unexpectedly, after we got in the car, the driver didn't take us to William's villa but to a 5-star hotel. Walking into the banquet hall, I was stunned. It seemed to be a birthday celebration. The guests were all dressed in their finest, including prominent figures from the city and even celebrities and reporters. To my shock, Michael, who had been studying abroad, was among them. After 5 years, his silhouette was still so familiar, as if we had parted just yesterday. Michael quickly noticed me, his clear eyes filled with surprise. William, who was not far away, was talking to an elderly man with gray hair and hadn't noticed our arrival. I quickly realized. Today was the 70th birthday of the Williams family patriarch. Could it be that William brought us here to introduce us to the old man? But the more I thought about it, the more it didn't make sense. My intuition told me it wouldn't be that simple. Sure enough, just as I was about to leave with my son, Sophia walked straight up to me.
Everyone, look who we have here.
Her words drew everyone's attention. William, who was talking to the old man, finally noticed us, his expression turning serious. I immediately understood that it was Sophia who had tricked us into coming here under William's name.
Does anyone recognize her? Let me introduce her. This is Anna, Mr. Michael's ex-girlfriend. As for this child.
She deliberately paused, but the guests had already started whispering. Michael, who was standing not far away, also walked over.
Mr. Michael's ex-girlfriend, so the child should be his, right? Mr. Michael is impressive. His son is already so big.
Is she here to acknowledge her son?
Congratulations to Mr. Williams Sr. You have a great grandson.
Double happiness today.
I felt like a lamb surrounded by wolves, with nowhere to hide. I wanted to leave with Tom, but Michael blocked my way.
Anna, is this true? Is this my son?
I didn't know how to answer. Sophia was clearly setting me up, forcing me to admit that Tom was William's son. If I admitted it, I would be seen as a promiscuous, scheming woman by the guests. Most importantly, if Mr. Williams Sr. saw me that way, even if William wanted to protect me, he couldn't. This was exactly what Sophia wanted, for everyone to despise and hate me. Before I could speak, Tom stood up.
Uncle, you are mistaken. I'm not your son. My dad is that man.
He pointed his little finger at William, who was walking over. Michael was stunned. The guests were also confused. William walked up to me, shielding me and our son without asking a single question. Standing tall and straight, he said in a loud voice.
That's right. This child is my son. I invited them here today to celebrate my father's birthday.
His words were like a bombshell.
Boom, my mind went blank. The room fell silent, so quiet you could hear a pin drop. 3 seconds later, the place erupted. Michael stood there, shocked and speechless. Sophia, who had been smug, now looked furious.
William, do you know what you just said?
Do I need to repeat myself? I said it clearly, this is my son, my biological son.
Then, he bent down and picked up Tom in front of everyone. Sophia looked like she was about to lose it.
What did you say? And who is she to you?
Her question made me even more nervous, and I wanted to run away. The last thing I wanted to hear was that I was insignificant to him. Just like when Michael decided to study abroad, leaving me alone and helpless. But before I could turn away, William pulled me into his arms.
Sorry, I forgot to introduce her. This is Anna, the mother of my son and the woman I've loved for many years.
His words left me dizzy and confused.
Loved for many years? Did he have feelings for me 5 years ago? I was stunned. Which part of what he said was true, and which part was just to provoke Sophia? Sophia glared at me, trembling with anger.
If she's the one you love, then what am I?
You were the one who wanted to call off the engagement. I'm just respecting your decision.
With that, he held me and our son and walked towards Mr. Williams Sr. Sophia went berserk and tried to rush at us. Fortunately, the security guards stopped her.
William, stop! William!
Although I didn't see Sophia's expression, I could imagine that she wanted to harm me. The thought of someone wanting to harm me sent chills down my spine. If anything happened to me, it would be because of William. Before I could gather my thoughts, William had already brought Tom and me to Mr. Williams Sr. I was already nervous, and seeing Mr. Williams Sr. made me even more anxious. To my surprise, the old man said,
I've heard for a long time that William has a 4-year-old son. This boy never told me himself and made me invite the mother and child over.
I realized I had wronged Sophia. It was true what they say, the older, the wiser.
When did you find out?
You think you can hide it from me?
I wouldn't dare. I was just looking for the right opportunity.
Today is the perfect opportunity.
Mr. Williams Sr. looked at Tom.
Come here, little one, call me Grandpa.
Tom immediately called out crisply.
Hello, Grandpa. I wish you a long life.
This made the old man very happy, and he took Tom from William's arms. I worried that Tom was too heavy and would tire the old man, so I reached out to take him. But William grabbed my hand and held it tightly. At that moment, my heart raced. I hadn't fully processed his earlier confession of loving me for many years. Now, he was holding my hand in front of Mr. Williams Sr. and everyone else. His gesture gave me immense courage.
Happy birthday, Mr. Williams. May you live a long and prosperous life.
Good, good, good.
The old man said good 3 times. His joy was evident, and he looked at me with increasing kindness. Just when I thought the family part was over, the old man said,
I don't care about family background or looks, but to be a daughter-in-law of the Williams family, one must have a certain level of education.
Hearing this, my heart sank. If I had graduated, I would at least have a bachelor's degree. If it weren't for getting pregnant with Tom.
Don't worry. I've arranged for Anna to go back to school. In the near future, you'll see a daughter-in-law with a degree from K University.
His words shocked me again. Going back to school was something I hadn't even considered. But it made the old man very happy.
In that case, I'll cover the tuition.
I support Mom going to school too.
I was overwhelmed. Were they all trying to spoil me or dig a hole for me? It would take at least 3 years to go back to school and get a degree. While we were talking, Michael suddenly walked over.
Anna, you haven't told me how you and my uncle met.
Before I could answer, William cut in.
Show some respect. Is that how you address her?
His reprimand made Michael uncomfortable. But he quickly adjusted.
Aunt?
His calling me aunt made my face turn red. In front of the Williams family and all the guests, I couldn't make a scene. So I pretended not to care.
Just like your uncle said, he has loved me for many years and pursued me for many years. Naturally, we ended up together.
But my explanation didn't satisfy Michael. I could see the anger and even hatred in his eyes. But he didn't give me a chance to explain further and left the banquet hall. William wanted to call him back.
Michael.
Let him be.
The old man muttered and continued chatting with the guests. William took Tom from the old man's arms and led us to a quiet private room for dinner. After the banquet, William had us taken home, to his private villa. At home, I noticed it was a bit quiet. It turned out William had already sent the butler and servants away. It seemed it would be just the 3 of us from now on. I thought the matter had ended happily. But the next morning, as I went downstairs, I saw William about to leave, with a bruise on his face. To avoid me noticing, he wouldn't face me directly.
What happened? Are you hurt?
It's nothing, don't worry.
William's casual response made it seem like it wasn't a big deal. But I felt a pang of concern.
Sit still, I'll get a boiled egg to roll on it.
I pressed him onto the sofa and went to the kitchen. I quickly found 2 boiled eggs, peeled them, and started rolling them on his bruise. At first, William cooperated. He sat still as I rolled the egg on his face.
Did you get into a fight last night?
No, who would dare fight me? I've always been the one to hit others.
Then how do you explain this bruise?
It's nothing serious, ouch.
William suddenly grabbed my hand.
Honey, be gentle.
His calling me honey startled me.
You know it hurts? If you know it hurts, why did you get into a fight?
William smiled at me, pulling me closer.
What's wrong? Feeling sorry for me?
Who feels sorry for you?
I pulled my hand back, intending to leave him alone. But he held me tighter, pulling me close. I instinctively tried to pull away. He grabbed the back of my head and pushed me towards him. Until my nose bumped into his, and our lips almost touched, he said in a husky voice.
If I told you Michael is more injured than I am, who would you feel sorry for? Me or him?
Hearing Michael's name, my heart remained calm.
Whoever is more injured is more pitiful?
Isn't that the case?
Of course not. It depends on who is in the right.
Before I could finish, William captured my lips, swallowing the rest of my words. To my surprise, his kissing skills had improved significantly. The kiss started gently, then deepened. I was dizzy from his kiss until he bit my neck. I suddenly came to my senses and pushed him away.
William, don't you have to go to work today?
The man continued kissing my neck.
Working from home is also an option.
He moved to my earlobe.
Do you remember saying you only wanted to be with me, forever?
I was stunned. Did I say I loved him and wanted to be with him forever? Those words were meant for Michael, not him. And the second part of that sentence was, "Promise me, tonight, I'll be yours." It had been 5 years, and he still remembered so clearly. Could it be? He fell for me because of those words? I pressed my hands on his shoulders and looked up.
Yes, I said that, but I didn't know it was you.
William held my waist, his gaze intense.
Can you say it to me now?
Say what?
Will you say it?
He tightened his grip on my waist, flipping me onto the sofa. Even when I softly pleaded, he didn't let me go until I said,
William, I want to be with you forever.
But he didn't release me. Instead, he held me tightly and whispered in my ear.
Me too.
Then he kissed me again. As he kissed, he said,
Anna, let's get married.
Aren't we waiting for me to get my degree?
William bit my ear.
I'm afraid I can't wait. Let's get married first and get the certificate later.
Just as I was about to respond enthusiastically, our son's voice came from the stairs.
Mom and Dad, what are you doing?
William and I jumped up from the sofa. The scene was incredibly awkward. Tom stood at the stairway, wearing cartoon pajamas and barefoot, staring at us. I quickly went upstairs to pick him up.
Nothing, Mommy will put you back to sleep.
Leaving William standing there, stunned, it seemed it was time for a second child.